So week number 8 of Dana White's Contender Series 2023 is coming up, and man, the season has gone fast. And I finally am coming off an undefeated week. I went undefeated at week number 7. I know there is a draw there, but I did go 4-0-1 on picks. I'm pretty happy with that Daniel James Allen pick. He was like plus 230 at one point, pretty big underdog, and we managed to get that one right, as well as every single other fighter on the card. Very, very good card. I think that Shamil Gaziev is a guy to keep your eye out for on the heavyweight division, and Kanan Kuchowski potentially could go pretty far in the 155 as well, because he looked way, way better than I thought he was going to look, and I did pick him to win, but I didn't think he was going to get it done in the way that he did. Now we move on to week number 8. The fighter to look out for on this card, in my opinion, is 100% Vinicius Oliveira. You can see an 18-3 record right there, but I'm telling you, this guy is fun. He is a lot of fun, super aggressive, super fun style, and hopefully he can get through and get that contract. I will talk about that fight in just a moment, but before we do get into it, you do have the 125% bonus to my BetUS link in the description below, as well as a 3-day free trial to the We Want Picks premium membership service, where you do get access to all sorts of things premium just like that. Before we do get into that though, I am so close to 5,000 subscribers. I don't normally ask people to subscribe to my channel, but if you could please subscribe, because we're getting pretty close. I really would appreciate that. And now, let's get into the picks. So kicking off the card, we're going to have Vinicius Oliveira taking on Victor Hugo Madrigal. And this is going to be a very, very fun fight. And I am going to be picking Vinicius Oliveira in this matchup. And I do think he gets it done by knockout, and probably relatively early, maybe round 1 or 2. If you do look at his record just on paper as well, you can see that he's a very, very aggressive guy. Lots of KOs, 14 by KO, 11 of them in round number 1, the rest of them in round number 2. He has gone the distance before, but it has been against some very, very good competition recently, an 11-3 opponent in 2019, and then a 14-1 opponent at UAE Warriors in 2021. And as you can see, his run at UAE Warriors is very, very impressive. He does have one loss to Ali Taleb, but that loss to Ali Taleb has aged well. Now, Ali Taleb, I thought that he was actually going to get signed to the UFC off this win, but PFL snatched him up before, unfortunately, the UFC could. But in that matchup, though, Vinicius Oliveira was looking really good. He was beating up Ali Taleb a little bit in that fight, and then he got KO'd in round number 3. And I think that we're going to see Vinicius Oliveira be able to have the same sort of success on the feet that he has in his previous fights against Victor Hugo Madrigal. So in my opinion, this is a pretty bad matchup for Victor Hugo Madrigal. Now, Victor Hugo Madrigal, he's dangerous himself, man. We're talking about a guy that 100% has the finishing ability, and 100% has the finishing ability to finish Vinicius Oliveira. We're talking about a guy with 7 wins by KO, 3 wins by submission, but to me, I would say that Madrigal is much more of a grappler than a striker compared to someone like Vinicius Oliveira, because I have seen Victor Madrigal go out there and try and get takedowns and try to use his grappling against his opponents. And I think in this matchup, he would probably be pretty smart to try and out-grapple Vinicius Oliveira, but the problem is, I think that Vinicius Oliveira's grappling itself is very, very good. It's pretty slick. He has shown improvements in the past as well. And I just think that Victor Hugo Madrigal, when you watch him fight, he does not like being pressured whatsoever. And that's what Oliveira does. He comes forward, he's aggressive, he's high volume, he's powerful, he's trying to take your head off. There's a reason why he's got 14 wins by knockout, and that's because he goes out there with the idea to get a KO. I think that if he does win this fight, and if he does sign to the UFC, he would be perfect for 135. He would be so fun. He'd be like another Daniel Santos in a way, like very, very, very fun fighter. I do believe he gets it done, and I am going to pick Oliveira to win by KO in round number 1 or round number 2, and Madrigal is only got 12% of the Tapology votes, Oliveira 88%, most of which by KO. I agree with Tapology. I'm going to go with Oliveira to win by KO in round 1 or 2. The next fight on the card is going to be women's flyweight. Ernesta Kareckaite taking on Carli Judice. And this is a very short notice fight for Carli Judice. To my knowledge, I think she only accepted this fight like earlier this week, maybe sometime last week. Very, very short notice fight for Carli Judice. But I actually am going to go with the short notice fighter. I think that this is a bad matchup for Ernesta Kareckaite. The original matchup was going to be Sora Rachmanova versus Ernesta Kareckaite, and Sora Rachmanova, if you didn't know, is actually Shavkat Rachmanov's sister, and I was going to pick Sora Rachmanova in that fight, and the reason why is Sora Rachmanova is very much a high pressure fighter. She likes to move forward, she likes to box, and she likes to get takedowns. Now, Carli Judice, doesn't like to get takedowns, but one thing I'm going to tell you about her is she really likes to move forward, and she likes to put on the volume, and she likes to really put a lot of power behind her shots as well. But I think it's that pressure that's going to get to her. You look at Carli Judice, and you see her record 3-0, 3 first-round KOs. And the reason why she's going out there and getting these first-round KOs is because she's moving forward and just throwing very, very heavy volume. Ernesta Karekkaite's sort of style is perfect for someone like Carli Judice to look good. Ernesta Karekkaite, if you watch her fights, she likes to have her hands pretty low, and she just goes so long without doing anything. Like, I've seen her go half a round without throwing a single strike. Her fights are not very exciting to watch. She's super low volume. Defensively, in my opinion, she's not even that great. Now, she does have a kickboxing background and also a professional boxing background, but like, she just, honestly, she's not that great defensively, and she just does absolutely nothing when the fight is on the feet as well. I don't necessarily understand Ernesta Karekkaite's sort of style and how it has managed to work for her for so long. But the problem is, yes, there are red flags to Carli Judice. 3-0, 3 first-round KOs at 125, and the level of competition is pretty poor. Now, at least Karekkaite has fought some girls with some pretty good records. Now, Latina Blot was like almost 40 years old though, so even then it wasn't that good of an opponent. But Blot was trying to take her down, and she was getting her down very easily. I don't know much about Carli Judice's wrestling game, but one thing I'm going to say, she is a good striker. She's a very good striker moving forward. She puts on a lot of pace. She actually does look like a very technical, capable fighter with good technique and power, and she mixes it up well. Very much a good boxer. I've seen her throw 1-1-2s pretty often and knock out girls with a lot of head kicks as well. She loves to throw the head kick, but at the end of the day, it's a stylistic sort of thing for me. And I am just going to go with the girl that I know I can trust to be aggressive, to go out there and actually try and win the fight. Whereas in the past, I've just seen Ernesta Karekkaite do absolutely nothing whatsoever, and I just can't really trust that too much. This is a bit of a risky pick, very low confidence pick, but I am going to go with Carli Judice here, the very young fighter, the girl on short notice with not a lot of experience. I think, unfortunately for her, this could be a situation where she goes out there and beats Ernesta Karekkaite, and Dana White just says, sorry, but I want to see you with more experience. And you're kind of like, why would you bring her on the Contender Series in the first place? But it is what it is. I think Carli Judice goes out here. I actually am going to go with Judice to win by decision. But if Judice goes out there and gets a KO over Karekkaite, I wouldn't be super surprised as well. I just trust the girl that's going to move forward, pressure forward, and throw the volume. Give me Judice to win by decision. A KO would not surprise me though. This next fight is going to be between Dani Silva and Angel Pacheco at men's featherweight, and it's going to be a very fun one. I mean, Dani Silva, in my opinion, is just a super aggressive, fun sort of guy. I would almost compare him to like a Trevor Peek in the way that he throws strikes. He's just bombing away with hooks. He's moving forward. He doesn't really have the best defense in the world, but one thing I will say is his takedown defense is solid. He can keep the fight on the feet if he needs to, and he probably will have to defend at least a couple of takedowns against Angel Pacheco, who seems to be a grappler for the most part. But the problem with Angel Pacheco is he just hasn't fought the best guys, like, at all. And even then, recently as well, he's beating a lot of guys with losing records. One of the guys actually is a guy that he beat twice in the first couple of minutes. And then he took on Wilson and Dragoni. And it's a very good win and a very well-aged win as well, because Wilson's gone on a massive streak since then. But in that matchup, Wilson was beating him up until Pacheco landed a flying knee and ended up getting the submission after that. So it's just one of those kind of interesting fights where I think it's going to be an absolute war. I don't think it's going to be like a super high level UFC fight war, but it's going to be a fun fight, and this is a fight to look forward to in my opinion. But it kind of just comes down to who do you think you can trust more. And the fighter that I trust more in this matchup is the fighter that has fought the better competition, but also the fighter that has seen adversity, more adversity in his career, and has been able to come back from it, and that is Dani Silva. Dani Silva has ended up in a couple of wars in his career. He has been hurt, you know, he has had to deal with quite a bit. In my opinion, though, I think he should have actually won that fight against Kauai. I thought that was a pretty interesting decision, but LFA, for some reason, recently has been having some weird decisions, but it is what it is. He bounced back with a 4-1 win, whereas Angel Pacheco, as I said, man, just his wins, you know, and the tape as well, there's not too much on it, and then even in what you watch, It's not super impressive. It kind of just comes down to who I can trust more. Danny Silva is one of Cub Swanson's guys, and that's probably why he got the opportunity there. As for Angel Pacheco, I think the opportunity come because he beat Wilson Indragoni for sure, and Wilson Indragoni is a guy that I think is very close to potentially getting an opportunity in the UFC at this point. But I'm going to go with Danny Silva here. I'm going to go with Danny Silva. I think it's going to be like a late finish. I think Angel Pacheco could look very good in round number 1. But I think Danny Silva is going to have the ability to come back from a very hard round number 1. Potentially a hard round number 2. But I think he can take over in rounds 2 and 3 and get a finish pretty late on into the fight. Danny Silva is my pick by very late finish, by very late knockout. It is a very interesting fight, and if Pacheco won, honestly, I wouldn't be super surprised, but it just kind of comes down to who I think I can trust more and who I think has looked better on the tape as well, and that is Danny Silva coming into this matchup. So now the next fight is going to be Alexander Soldatkin versus Mario Piazzon, and this is a men's heavyweight fight, and it should be a pretty fun one. But before we do get into this breakdown, I need to be honest with you guys. I could not find tape on Mario Piazzon whatsoever. All of his fights have been under this sort of promotion here in Demo Fight, and I don't think that they know what a camera is, so they don't upload videos of their events, they don't live stream their events. There's nothing. I genuinely couldn't find a single thing on Mario Piazzon, aside from the fact that he trains with JL10 Almeida. But you know, that could mean anything. I mean, I could go and train with JL10 Almeida potentially if I moved to Brazil and walked into his gym. But it is what it is. If you look at Demo Fight, which is the promotion that he fights for, in my opinion, this promotion is definitely one to keep your eye on, and in terms of it might be a little bit sketchy. Look at this. All undefeated fighters, or fighters with great records on the left, and then fighters with pretty bad records on the right. I mean, it's just it's interesting, really, isn't it? So, that's what I know about Mario Piazzon. Not a lot, but what I'm going to assume is that he is a 6-foot tall heavyweight with power in his hands, and he can knock anyone out at any moment. I'm assuming he's probably pretty aggressive as well to get the finishes that he is getting. But as for Alexander Soldatkin, I can tell you a lot about Alexander Soldatkin. I think Soldatkin's really fun. He's an incredibly athletic heavyweight. That's one thing I'm going to tell you about him. This guy throws spinning kicks, and he looks really good doing it. He doesn't have the best gas tank in the world, but I don't think he's going to have to worry too much in this one here, because I don't think it's going to last too long either way. Soldatkin's takedown defense is pretty good. I thought that his last fight against Benjamin Sahik was really weird, because Benjamin Sahik was a massive dude. I think he was like 6'9" or something absolutely ridiculous, and this guy was just rolling for like Imanari rolls and was like pulling guard the whole fight. It was so odd. It was just a weird fight. But his fight before that against Roger Souza, I think in that matchup he threw like 2 spinning kicks and then knocked him out within a minute. And that's kind of what an Alexander Soldatkin sort of fight looks like. He knocks you out, and he knocks you out very quickly. He does have an armbar with him there, but that's not his game at all. He is a striker, and he wants the fight to be on the feet, and he wants to knock you out in the first round. That is what he is going to try and do in this fight. Now, the cardio for Soldatkin is something to worry about, but I think that as an athletic heavyweight here, which in my opinion has very good potential to go pretty far, because at age 30 he is still pretty young for this weight class, I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go with Soldatkin to win this one early, but as I said, I mean, if you can find tape on Mario Piazzon, please let me know. Please message me on Instagram, because I'm interested to see it. But as I said, man, it's just like, there's just nothing on this guy whatsoever. I mean, he trains with Jailton Almeida, but even if Jailton Almeida went out there and said that Mario Piazzon was the best fighter in the world, I mean, what is he else meant is he meant to say? Is he meant to say that Mario Piazzon sucks? I mean, who knows? But who knows with this fight? It's a weird one. I'm picking Soldatkin by finish. I'm going to pick him by KO. We'll go KO round 1 to be fun, but I do want to be clear, I am picking Soldatkin. So many question marks in this fight, though. So let's see what happens on the night, I guess. And the featured fight of the night is going to be between 2 men's welterweights, between Danny Barlow and Raheam Forrest. And this is a somewhat short notice for Raheam Forrest. The original matchup was going to be Justin Burlinson versus Danny Barlow, but Burlinson seemed to have some visa issues and he did pull out of the fight. He did only announce it relatively recently, but this fight has been booked for at least a few weeks. So it is short notice, but it's not ridiculously short notice. Danny Barlow's nickname is Left Hand to God, and that does kind of explain his striking style, because he has an insane amount of power in that left hand. I mean, Danny Barlow, he is a striker for the most part, but he is relatively low volume. But man, does he have power. And one thing I have noticed about him is he loves to throw that left uppercut. He just loves to throw it. But the thing with Danny Barlow is, in his professional career, he hasn't really fought the best guys. This record isn't super standing out to me. He beat a 2-1 opponent by round 1 KO, a 5-5 opponent by round 1 KO. So he hasn't really beaten the best guys. Whereas Raheam Forrest, in my opinion, actually has gone out there and beaten some good guys. He went out there and beat Donovan Beard. Donovan Beard was on the Contender series and took on Bo Nickel before Bo Nickel ended up in the UFC. And he took on a 6-1 opponent, Charles Radke, and in that matchup he actually had Charles Radke rocked, but then he went for a takedown and ended up getting choked out in the first round. Just pretty bad fight IQ, a little bit of a mistake there from Raheam Forrest. And I think that wrestling that I mentioned is going to be the difference in this matchup. Both guys are very good strikers. In fact, I almost would say that Raheam Forrest kind of is more of a striker than a wrestler, but the thing is, one thing I have noticed about Raheam Forrest is that he does like to wrestle, and he does wrestle in fights which he should wrestle. Because with Donovan Beard, one thing I said about Donovan Beard in his matchup against Bo Nickel is in a lot of Donovan Beard's fights, this guy gets taken down in the first minute of every single fight. And what does Raheam Forrest do when he tries to take on Donovan Beard? He takes him down as soon as the fight begins. I think that was pretty good fight IQ. And even then on the feet, I think he's a lot more aggressive than Danny Barlow as well. And whereas Danny Barlow can be low volume, he can be kind of caught just trying to swing big bombs and not really put on the pace and put on the pressure that maybe he should. Whereas Raheam Forrest is the guy that you can trust to come forward, to bomb away, and then get takedowns as well. And I think that wrestling is going to be the difference in this matchup. The striking fight, in a pure striking fight, even then, I probably would pick Raheam Forrest, because it comes down to that thing again where it's like you're trusting the fighter to go out there and be the aggressor and be the fighter that's going to dictate the pace and come forward and get the KO. And that is Raheam Forrest on the feet, but Raheam Forrest has the wrestling to back it up as well. And I think that we do see Raheam Forrest go out there and get the takedowns on Danny Barlow, wear him out, and then get a finish later on in the fight. I'm going to go with Raheam Forrest to win this fight by knockout. Towards the end of the fight, most people are going with Barlow. I like what I've seen from Raheam Forrest, and I will be picking him in this matchup by second or third round knockout. Let me know what you think of my predictions in the comments below. I think this could be a pretty difficult card to predict. It's going to be interesting to see what the odds are when they drop, because as I said, I record these without seeing the odds beforehand. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching.